Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over how to get better at Fortnite if you only have a limited amount of playtime per day or per week. So this is a question that I get asked about a fairly decent amount, and I feel like most videos revolved around improvement for Fortnite. They kind of assume that everybody has a ton of time to play the game. Now, of course, that may be the case for a decent amount of people, but definitely not for everybody. So for simplicity's sake, in this video, we're going to be talking about the best ways to get better if you can only play roughly an hour or so each day. This is going to be for the people who obviously enjoy Fortnite and care about being as good as you possibly can, but due to real life responsibilities, playing other games, or anything else, you just can't grind 4 to 5 plus hours a day like a pro player would. I feel like that's a category that probably the majority of Fortnite players fall into, so I really believe this will be a helpful video, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so one of the biggest differences between playing like an hour a day and 3 to 4 plus hours is that you have less opportunities to play multiple different things in the same session. What you'll see pros do during their super long sessions of playing is very frequently switch between a bunch of different things. They'll start off with like a 30-minute warm-up and mechanical training session, then maybe they'll hop into some 1v1 build fights or box fights for another hour, then they'll maybe play a couple games of arena, and finally they'll finish it off with an hour or two of scrims. Obviously, that's a really good variety of playing and practice, but it just plain and simple isn't possible to fit all that into anywhere near an hour or so. So the first really important tip when it comes to improving in a limited amount of playtime is to vary what you play on a session-by-session basis. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when they can only play for like an hour or so is they'll hop on and play the same exact thing every time. For a lot of my less dedicated friends, that would be public matches. For other people, it may be arena. I'm sure there are some creative mode only grinders out there. I think you get the idea. The reason why this would be a problem is because when it comes to improving as a player, each thing that you can play has its own set of positives and negatives. For example, playing box fights or zone wars may be great for improving mechanically, but they only help you practice a very specific type of fight, and they're actually kinda unrealistic in that regard. In Zone Wars, you're only really practicing endgame moving zone scenarios, and with box fights, you're obviously only practicing box fighting in a relatively small and confined area that forces you to play that way. So you're getting a lot of mechanical reps for sure, but as I'm sure we all know, in real games, fights are much less straightforward as a whole. On the flip side, when you play regular arena or public match games, the fights you get into are obviously going to be a lot more realistic with more variety, but the downside is since you're going to have so much time between fights no matter how aggressive you play, you're just getting less action and less practice overall. So since everything you can possibly play has its own set of positives and negatives like I said, the best thing you can do is vary what you play on a session-by-session basis. It doesn't have to be every session, don't get me wrong, but if you play a total of 7 hours in a week and all 7 hours is spent playing public matches, you're going to fall behind the mechanical skill curve more and more as time goes on. If all 7 hours are spent playing box fights or zone wars, you're going to fall behind the game sense skill curve as well. I always like to make comparison to sports just to simplify things a bit, so just imagine if you are an NBA player and you only practice shooting mid-range jumpers for an entire offseason. Yeah, sure, you'd probably be looking like 96 MJ at around the 16-foot mark, but every other aspect of your game would suffer, and you would become a much worse player than if you spread your practice time around evenly. Now, of course, don't force yourself to play modes you hate or anything. That would obviously be stupid, and it's fine if you spend a little extra time playing modes that you really like, but just make sure to switch it up as frequently as possible, because if you don't, your weaknesses as a player will only become more and more amplified, and that's going to make it harder to improve. Another really important aspect of improving with limited time is to really only focus on the core fundamentals of the game, and here's kinda what I mean by that. I'm someone who's pretty much always believed that super advanced and specific techniques/tricks are kinda overrated, but I do get the appeal if you're already a really skilled player, you have a lot of time on your hands, and you're just looking to add cool and effective new tricks to your game. But if you're a more casual player with a limited amount of time, the absolute worst thing you can do is focus on techniques that you're barely going to use in real games. When you have limited playtime, that amount of playtime becomes more valuable than normal, which means your main goal should be to get as much value out of it as possible. So if you spend 20 to 30 minutes learning some super niche box fighting technique, high ground retake, specific 1v1 start, or whatever, unless you plan on using it multiple times a game, that's just bad value. You would have gotten so much more out of 20 minutes of really any other decent method of practice. Now, of course, you do want to make sure you have the mechanical fundamentals down if you don't already. When I'm referring to a quote-unquote advanced technique, I'm not talking about like a double floor ramp wall ramp rush or a double edit retake. Those are actually pretty fundamental as a whole. I'm more so talking about some of the crazy mechanical tricks that pros use. It probably took them hours of practice just to master, and they're obviously some of the most skilled players in the world, so please don't waste your time with those. Focus on skills that you're actually going to use every game or maybe even every fight. Another absolutely crucial thing to do with your limited playtime if you're trying to get better is really focus on your negatives as a player. Now to start, just kind of branching off on the first point a bit here, you can do that by putting a little more time into certain types of practice that can help you improve those negatives. Like I alluded to, if you struggle mechanically, you probably want to spend more time playing box fights or 1v1s and less time playing arena, but you should also be incorporating a mindset of improving your weaknesses into regular games as well. If you think that you struggle with close range shotgun aim, for example, really try to make an emphasis of pushing enemies and getting into a bunch of close range fights. If you struggle when it comes to getting and maintaining high ground, then obviously try to turn as many fights into build battles for high ground as possible. As the cliche sort of goes, with a little bit of a twist on it, as a player, you're only going to be as strong as your weakest skill, so you want to make that weakness as non-impactful as possible by constantly improving it. And finally, one last thing I want to quickly add is even if you have a limited amount of playtime, please don't ignore warming up. I know it may feel like a bit of a waste of time if you only have an hour or so to play, so you just want to get to the fun stuff, but not warming up can honestly ruin an entire session because of how rusty you'll be. And when I say warm up, I don't mean going through like a whole 30-minute routine. Even just something as simple as free building for like 2 minutes, that'll at least get you mechanically ready enough to play the game to a decent degree. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down the comment section below. How much time on average would you say that you spend in a given day playing Fortnite? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.